Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining me this evening. I really wanted to do this from outside because I'm up in Sedona, but it is super windy outside and there's no way you would hear me. So I'm inside looking at beautiful Sedona. Unfortunately, you won't be able to see my view. Anyway, I want to thank you all for joining us this evening. Tonight's topic for Omega Insights, we are discussing taking out the trash. Now, when we talk about taking out the trash, the idea is trash. Well, first of all, we all know what trash is, but I went to the dictionary to look up what trash is, the definition of trash. And essentially it said it's something worth little or nothing, something in a crumbled or broken condition, or a mass like from the processing plant. That's what it's like, the trash, you eliminate it. So aside from recycling and composting, the trash that we throw out is typically things that don't work anymore. They're broken, or some of them are even destroyed. Perhaps maybe like, for those of us who are old enough to remember, the VCR tapes, when that pulls out and that you can't use them anymore. Or the vacuum belts, when they break, you can't use that anymore. Or worn out tools. Have you ever had a Phillips screwdriver that was worn out and it wouldn't fit in the cross thing anymore because it just kept spinning? We typically throw those things out. So essentially, what we do is we get rid of things that no longer serve us, or they're no longer useful. So I know we understand this. I know we all understand the idea of trash. That the physical trash. So let's think about the trash that we have in our minds. What are some of the things that we have in our minds that we would consider trash? Well, if we go with the same definition, something that no longer serves me or is not useful, then we can think of thoughts that no longer serve us or that are not useful. For example, anything that has to do with a negative connotation, like if I could throw the spiritual thrown in there, anything that's negative or creates negative thinking, we can consider that trash. For example, hate, greed, jealousy, criticism, things that are low vibration. That's what it really comes down to. We essentially want to eliminate a lower vibration and focus more on a higher vibration. So just like we take our physical trash and throw it away, we can do the same with our mind. We could take the mental trash and throw it away, which is easier said than done. We're creatures of habit, and we have a natural inclination to replay things, especially if we don't replace it. We can easily slip back to the upset and the angst and the anger and reaction. If you think about emotions, you feed emotions into it and forget it. We're going to manifest a minefield in our minds of negative thinking and lower vibrations. So what we want to do is we want to be able to fill our mind with things that are not negative or not trash. So it's easy for me to say, just don't think that. Well, it's easy to say that. It's difficult to do it. So when I think about throwing out the trash or our thinking is so important. One of the Hermetic principles, as a matter of fact, it's the first principle, everything is mental. Everything that we have around us first created by thought. Everything was first created by our thinking. And, there's the old aphorism, I am what I think, you think, therefore I am. So it's all about our thought process. If we can get rid of those lower vibrations, those negative vibrations in our mind, we'd be able to eliminate the trash in our mind, which is naturally affecting our bodies. What we want to do is to be able to replace that, though. We know this. If you don't replace it, it's like water. You just fill it, backfill, and the water's just going to come back in. You have to be able to replace it with something. I've been watching videos of George. So I'm up in Sedona because every once in a while we'll take a week off and we will just unplug, with exceptions of things that we had planned, but we'll unplug. No videos, no social media, no phones, everything is just unplugged. And we replenish our connection to our inner world, let's say. Well, we were watching one of George's videos, and he made this comment. He said that many of us, there's a difference. There's one thing to educate our mind, and it's another to train our mind. We can educate our minds and learn and memorize and recite, but there's a difference between education and training. So when we train our mind, it's like we are learning to absorb, implement, and apply the things that we've been trained or learning, educating on. So what do I mean by this? Very simple. Mental discipline. Now I know I can say the word discipline and I offend people immediately. Discipline, some people think discipline like you discipline your children. That's not the type of discipline I'm speaking of. What I am speaking of is the type of discipline that's it's a technique or discipline, or it's a technique, or I'm referring to the development, like a routine to develop our willpower, aka strengthening our mental power. So when we implement a mental discipline, what we're doing is eliminating the trash and focusing on things that are productive, that will serve us, that have a higher vibration. So there have been techniques and disciplines around for centuries. I'm not making this up. These are things that have been taught Socrates, Hermes, keep going all the way back. It's every century, every civilization has had these disciplines that the sages or the wise teachers taught their students. So we are no different. There's nothing I'm going to present to you that you haven't already heard of or you didn't even know. The problem is that many of us don't adapt to them because they're just not simply exciting enough for us, especially in today's era where everything's instantaneous. It doesn't light our fire, let's say. It's like, yeah, well, that's nice. Or perhaps maybe it requires too much time and the results don't happen fast enough for us. We actually don't engage in them because, there isn't even a guarantee when or if we'll achieve enlightenment. I mean, if you think about it, people have been writing about enlightenment since the written word, and how many people have actually achieved enlightenment. So I like that term enlightenment. Think about that, adding light to my thinking. Enlightened. I'm inner lightened. Anyway, so the idea is, when it comes to the mental disciplines that we have or the techniques that we can use, we have to be committed to doing it. Sometimes we do 5 minutes, we try, we'll read something. Oh, that sounds great, let me try that. And we'll try it, and if 5 minutes goes by, or the first time we do it and we don't feel like, oh, that didn't really work, then off we move on. It's kind of like going to the gym and lifting 5 pounds and saying, oh, well, I don't see a difference in my arm, so no, I'm not going to do this anymore. Well, again, it's the instantaneous. Dipping your toes in water doesn't make you a swimmer. Meditating occasionally doesn't make you a meditator. It's consistency that is required. It's a discipline. Kind of like eating. We eat and feed ourselves 2-3 times a day, 4 or 5, how many times you eat. If we don't do that, our body suffers. Well, just think about what's happening to our brain if we don't feed it, if we don't stimulate it. I watched this video today. It was about the effects that exercise has on our brain. Essentially, it was very fascinating. He talked about the hippocampus, and that when we don't exercise, our brain is shrinking and we're diminishing our capacity. I mean, it captured my attention so much so that I looked at my husband and said, I got to get back on my bicycle. I'm going to do the elliptical soon because this is something that I love exercising and I haven't been doing. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, can you imagine what's it doing to our brains? But, that's off to the subject. So if we're serious about changing our brain, if we're serious about our mind, if we're serious about mental discipline, then we must make a commitment. Naturally, the number one focus is our body. We already talked about exercise. Exercise can be very beneficial for us. Drinking water is very beneficial for us. it gets the oxygen going through our brain and helps with our brain functions. So aside from that, the one thing that I love, meditation. Meditation is one of the oldest forms of mental discipline, naturally, because meditation is really about controlling our thinking. It's unfortunate that there are some people who, when you hear the word meditation, they go, oh, poo-poo, that's the little ooh. That's not really what meditation is. Meditation is controlling my thinking. It's the ability for you to control your thoughts and the intention to get to a place where you don't have thoughts. You reach a place of just peace, even if it's for a moment where all of a sudden there's nothing but being. That's what we're striving for. Again, this is where it's a little discouraging, because how often do we reach that place? I mean, I know personally when I sit down to meditate, I start writing the list of the things that I got to get done as soon as I'm done meditating, and that doesn't help us at all. People use mantras, which are very beneficial, because then you could focus on something else besides the rambling. But, I've had this experience. I'm certain you have. You could say the mantras and you're still thinking of something else. It's like they're both happening, just switch back and forth on that. So the idea is meditation is something that can help us develop our mind. It can help us increase the control that we have, which is what we're looking for. We're wanting to discipline our mind. Here's the funny thing, though. If I say, don't think of the color red, immediately we think of a color red or something that's red. If I say, don't think of an apple, we're thinking of an apple. Don't think of your feet, all of a sudden you feel your feet. Even if it's just a second, it's like our mind is drawn, our attention is drawn to what we're thinking, even if we say the word, don't think of that. So that can be quite tricky. So the idea is meditating. Now, of course, naturally, meditating on a daily basis is wonderful. It'd be ideal to do it twice a day. And there's some debate on how long one should meditate. George always used to teach us you should never meditate more than 15 minutes, no more than 15 minutes. I know that anywhere from 5 minutes up, you're going to have benefit. Just be able to still your body and still your mind, even if you're just controlling your breathing for 5 minutes, there's benefit. But here's what I wanted to introduce to you. I know I talked about this throwing out the trash. The idea is we have to replace our thinking. So if I'm not going to have the negative thoughts, what will I do? How do I increase my brain function? So the first thing, and I love this list. I found this list. This was published in August of 2019. Healthline published this article. It's called 13 Brain Exercises to Help You Mentally Become Sharper. And the first one on there is jigsaw puzzles. I love jigsaw puzzles. I transitioned, though, from the actual jigsaw puzzle to my tablet, like the electronic jigsaw puzzle. And I know you probably don't get as many benefits as that, especially since on the electronic tablet, I could make it so all the pieces are facing the right way, so I don't have to spin them around. But that's actually a disadvantage, because the benefits of doing the jigsaw puzzle, it's that you're having to figure out, this little piece, and think about something in the bigger picture. Where does it go? Your mind has to think about, how does it rotate? What piece does it fit into? Most of the time we do the edges first, and then you try to get the colors together. But a jigsaw puzzle is very good for the development of our brain, of helping us stay sharp. So that's one thing. I love that. It's a way to challenge ourselves. The second thing, which totally made me laugh, card games. I love solitaire, different versions of solitaire that you can play. Or you can play hearts or gin rummy. Even if you have a partner to play with, that's also very beneficial. But playing games with cards, research actually conducted a study on mental stimulation for activities for adults, and they said a quick card game can lead to greater brain function in several regions of the brain, just because of you're having to think about the game, the strategy that you're playing. If you're playing hearts, you have to think about the strategy that you're playing. Even with solitaire, what goes where, how is this going to line up? So that's the second thing, is card gaming. Number 3 is build your vocabulary. I love this, building your vocabulary. George always used to implement the idea of using words that aren't used often. many years ago, I actually started this, and I encourage you to do this. When you're reading a book, have a notebook with you. And when you get to a word that you don't know, for many years, I would just skip over it and just keep reading and assume I would know what it meant. I stopped this, especially when I started reading Manly P. Hall. He uses big words. Write down that word, finish reading, go to the dictionary, and figure out what the word is, and then try to use it. I mean, that's a great discipline. I've had some good workshops that I've written based on that. I remember polymath was a word that I didn't even know. And it just means the ability to have excel in more than one science. So polymath was a good word. So anyway, that's a great thing it says. Involving vocabulary tests, this helps with visual, as well as auditory. That's funny. Learn how to speak the words you're learning. The next thing it says, this was something that was quite interesting to me, is dancing. I didn't understand how dancing could improve our mental capacity until I read it. What happens is, it said don't just dance, learn dance moves. Like learn how to do the tango, or to do the salsa, do the shuffle. Sorry, flashback. But by learning to dance different moves, it invokes cognitive memory. And it's actually connecting your brain to your body on what you're doing. I mean, some people who dance actually become the dance. It's so beautiful to watch. So dancing is a wonderful thing to help increase our mental stimulation. The next thing they suggest is to use all 5 senses. Now, I know that sounds goofy. I mean, we use all 5 senses all the time, but to consciously be aware of all 5 senses. And the suggestion would be like to go to a bakery or to the farmer's market, and while you're standing there, see what you smell, see what you see, what do you smell, what do you hear, reach out and feel something, taste something. By implementing the 5 senses, we're igniting different parts of our brain. And making a conscious effort, that also helps us stay in the present moment, which is also very beneficial for our brain. The next thing they suggest is to learn a new skill. I love this. I think learning is very beneficial. If we continue to learn, our lives are never dull. So learn a new skill. First of all, this helps with improving our memory function, because we have to learn something new and then we have to remind ourselves. You know how they say you can't teach an old dog a new trick? Not true. This is very beneficial to learn something new. I mean, even it's learning how to change the oil in your car, learning how to cook, learning how to build something, using our hands, using tools, learning how to paint, learning how to crochet, anything that you've desired to do, learn how to do it. Again, that helps with mental stimulation. Then the next one that follows this is teach someone else the skill that you just learned. This is absolutely imperative. It's wonderful, because when I'm teaching someone something that I just learned, I'm reinforcing what I learned. I'm passing it on to another individual. So by teaching it, it actually becomes a part of what I've done. Even something as simple as learning how to swing a golf club, which I still to this day cannot do. I keep swinging it like a baseball bat. I played softball. I keep swinging it like a softball. So a golf swing is something I have not mastered yet. The next thing they suggest is to listen to or play music. If you're one of those people who can play an instrument, that's wonderful, that's fantastic. There's so much that happens in your brain when you're actually playing an instrument. There's so much that goes on, it's very beneficial for us. But the idea is listening to music. Listening to happy music, it generates solutions in our mind. There are some great thinkers, writers, who will play music in the background to help stimulate the creative juices going on our mind. So by listening to music, we actually are stimulating things that are happening. And let me say this, if you have always wanted to play an instrument, pick it up and learn how to play it. Playing an instrument, it gets new skills going. So again, the cognitive memory is kicking in. By playing an instrument, again, like I said before, you become the music. It brings us into the present moment. I'm going to tell you right now, when you're learning chords, you're not thinking about the that's happening in the world. You are focused on learning the chords. When you're having to press the keys, or to do it on the violin, where your fingers go, you're very focused on that instrument and the melody naturally as well. I'm seeing everyone say hello. I'm sorry, I'm ignoring you. I'm trying to get through this before I run out, but hello to everyone who's saying hi to me. Amber and Rosa, I see you as well, and Patricia. Okay, take a new route. We have used this in Omega a great deal. One of the disciplines for increasing our willpower is to create a different route. That means going to work, go do a different path. Getting dressed, put different socks on first. I mean, and don't put your shoes on and then your socks on top of the, obviously that doesn't make logistical sense, but do a different routine. When you're in the shower, this is one of the most funniest things. Everyone goes unconscious when they're in a shower. My husband and I, we actually like to say this, that we have great thinking that happens in the shower because we're not thinking about the process. Our mind is off thinking of something else. And he used to say he wants to put like a whiteboard up in the shower, so because all the thoughts that come to you can write them down in the shower. But a lot of people have that experience. So do a different routine. I know I've watched myself go through this routine of how to do a shower. Try something different. Creating a different routine gets you out of being a robot and gets you out of being repetitive. And it makes you be thoughtful of what you're doing. So do a different routine. When you go into a restaurant, order different meals. Don't always have the same thing. Go for something different. The next thing, of course, is meditate. I've already mentioned that. Meditation is so beneficial for us. I would have actually put this number 1. So it's reduces stress. I mean, there's so much benefits. It reduces the stress, helps with your breathing, calms the mind. It's very, very beneficial. Minimum of 5 minutes a day is what I would recommend. The next one is learn a new language. This one is very important. In 2002, there was a research that was overwhelmingly proven that people who can speak multiple languages have a more cognitive brain. According to numerous studies, bilinguists can contribute to better memory, improved visual and spatial skills, and a high level of creativity. For those of you who have bilingual, that's wonderful. It really does create so much more benefit for us. You know, I've gotten to the point, oh, I'm too old, I can't do that. Well, that's not true. There's this app called Duolingo, which was passed over to me. Love it, and it'll help you. So I'm trying to learn Spanish a little bit as I go. William, to answer your question, this comes off of an article that was written in 2019. It's from Healthline, published, if you just Google brain exercises, but the article is Healthline, published in 2019, 13 brain exercises to help you keep you mentally sharp. So thank you for the question. Again, learning a new language. The next one, which I think is wonderful, take up Tai Chi. I love Tai Chi. Haven't done it in years, but there's no secret to the benefits that Tai Chi can offer you in many, many ways, including your mental health. It helps you center and balance. Balance is so important. So taking up a regular practice of Chai Tea, this is what they state, taking up a regular practice of Chai Tea can help reduce stress, enhances sleep, the quality of your sleep, and helps improve memory. There was a 2013 study that was found, and it said that long-term Tai Chi practice can induce structural changes in the brain, resulting in an increase in the brain volume. That blew me away. I'm going to read that again because it was really fascinating. Long-term, it says right here, I'm going to read it again as soon as I find it, that a long-term practice could induce structural changes in the brain, resulting in an increase in the brain function, simply by doing Tai Chi. So beginners do their best by taking a class to learn the different movements, but once you know the basics, you can practice Tai Chi anywhere. So I would encourage you to do Tai Chi. And drink chai tea as well. That's good. My brain is suffering from not exercising. Okay. And the last thing it says to do to help with our brain is to focus on the other person. So, for example, the next time that you're interacting with someone, take note of at least 4 things of that individual. Maybe you can observe the color of their shirt or their pants. Are they wearing glasses? Do they have a hat on? What color is their hair? What color are their eyes? 4 physical things. As you're listening to the individual, please don't be distracted and just start doing this. I mean, pay attention to the individual, but see if you can find 4 things about that individual and make a mental note about it. And then later on in the day, recall your conversation and see if you can remember those 4 items. That's a great exercise to do. You can do it anywhere, and nobody even has to know that you're doing it. So again, 4 things about an individual, and then later on in the day, or give yourself at least 4 or 5 hours difference, and try to recall that conversation and the 4 things about that individual. I love the idea of before you go to bed to review your day. There's many different ways that you can do that. George used to talk about before you go to sleep, review your day, but start from that moment and work your way back all the way to the morning. So this would be a great opportunity to do that. As you're reviewing your day, think of a conversation or an interaction you had and come up with the 4 things that you remembered about that individual. So again, these are the 13 things that people recommend, that this article, Healthline, recommends. I'll quickly review them one more time. Jigsaw puzzles, card games, building your vocabulary, dancing, learning a different dance style, use all of your 5 senses, being aware of your 5 senses wherever you are, learning a new skill, teaching a new skill, listen to or play music, take a new route, meditate, learn a new language, take up chai tea, and then focus on another individual. Now, once we begin to practice throwing out those negative thoughts, the lower vibration thoughts, hate, greed, anger, frustration, once we start not focusing on them, we can turn our attention to something that does benefit us. Remember, throwing out the trash, we're eliminating things that do not serve us anymore, things that are not useful, and then we turn our attention to things that are useful, that will serve us. By increasing our brain capacity, that will serve us. In many ways, there are extreme benefits of this. It's not just about being smarter, it's about being. It's about being. That's what we're looking for. Our brain can distract us so much we miss the moments. So when we increase our brain, our thoughts, we learn to be and to express us at a higher vibration. And by expressing us on a higher vibration, we are making a contribution to those around us, to the environment, and to the world, essentially. We are continuing to make a contribution. So, what we're going to do with the Omega Insights, on Thursday I'm going to jump back on and talk about a little bit of the changes we're doing with Omega, but with the Insights I'm going to give you a challenge. So my challenge is to choose one of those 13 things that we've talked about and start doing it. To start doing that and then check in with us. We love to hear from you. Thank you for those of you who checked in from the last challenge of remembering that everyone is like us, even when we get frustrated with them, to stop and remember, oh, that person's just like me. And we practice compassion instead of agitation. So this challenge for this week, the challenge would be to pick one of those 13 items and do it every day. And see if you recognize any benefit and any struggle that you have. Again, send us feedback, tell us how it's going, what your struggle is, and if you've actually achieved any movement that you are aware of. So as always, thank you for keeping the Spirit Omega alive. I truly appreciate all that you do and continue to do. And it's great to see and hear from some of you. The Omega Insights, we're going to go back to Mondays. And I'm gonna attempt to do it. I cannot commit to do it every single week, but I'm committing to do it at least twice a month to have a challenge for you as well as an insight. So thank you all for being here. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your week. And until we speak next time, namaste.